Perfect. Alrighty, we'll get started then. So good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are located in Australia. So thank you for attending today's webinar. So today we'll be going through the best practice session with CAS 360. If you attended some of these sessions last year, we have restructured the format of them and how the series will work. So the content will be different from each month to month. So for today's webinar, we'll be looking at the company selection screen as well as company registrations. So my name is Damien. I am the Client Success Manager here at BGL. So the Client Success team looks after the onboarding process with clients and assisting with data transitions as well as the training aspect. So just a bit of housekeeping before we jump into things. So this webinar is being recorded. All attendees and registrants will receive an email with a copy of the recording, probably within a few days. I do have a couple of colleagues from the Client Success team here as well. So if you do have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A section of the Zoom section there. I've got Brian and Jess from the Client Success team that will answer any of those questions. And if we've got some time at the end, we'll also answer some of those live as well. So just a bit about what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to be looking at the general navigation of CAS 360. So especially for new users of the software, a bit about the green bar at the top and also the navigation bar on the left-hand side, and really look at the company section screen in depth. So what are the features there? How can you make the most out of that screen? We're going to look at the alerts, which there's a number of different colors. They all mean different things. So we're going to look at what do all of those colors mean and how does that help with your workflow and your clients? And then a bit about the company registrations as well. So company registrations are supported in CAS 360. They have been for a few years now as well. So we're going to go through and explain how that process works, what are the requirements, and how to access that within CAS 360. Perfect. All right. So I'm just going to jump into the software and I'm going to stop my video just so that you can see the full screen. So just bear with me for one moment. Perfect. All righty. So hopefully everyone is able to see CAS 360 up on the screen. So I have already logged into what we call a demo or test environment. So the companies that are in here are what I'll be working with today. So it's a bit of dummy data or test data that we have. And obviously the clients within your license will appear for your firm though. Alrighty, so just a bit of general navigation within CAS 360. Like I said earlier as well, so looking at this green bar and also the options that we have on the left-hand side. So one thing to note when just from a general navigation perspective is that I don't really use, for example, the back button or refresh too much within CAS 360. If I am doing a particular task within the software, I'd normally navigate through the screens or the options here on the left-hand side, or even at the top of the screen here. The green bar and the sidebar are available in every screen within CAS 360. So for example, right now, I'm in the company selection screen. And if I was to go into one of the companies itself, we'll see that the green bar and sidebar are still visible as well. So it allows me to easily navigate between any of the screens within CAS 360. Now, looking at the green bar at the top at the moment, so this search bar allows you to search a few different things. So the first one is the companies itself. So if you want to search for a particular company, it can be done from here. So if I type in, for example, AH company, which is the one that's already listed here, I can access the company from here. It searches for the contacts as well. So any sort of directors, shareholders, trusts, joint members, those sorts of contacts will appear as well in that search, as well as trusts themselves. So if I was to type in, for example, the BGL unit trust as well, they will be within the trust module. And also the trace numbers as well. So if you've prepared a document within CAS 360 and you want to lodge that one, that can be done within, for example, the document screen or within the company itself. But if you were to type in the trace number directly into the search here, it will allow you to go straight to that particular document. This one has probably been deleted, but allows you to search for a trace number and go to that one very easily. Now, on the right-hand side here, we've got a few different options as well. So the first one is the BGL Community. So if I click on the BGL Community, this will take me to the CAS 361 specifically. And within here, there's a number of things that are happening. So the first thing is the release notes. So our CAS 360 product team aims to do a release every 3 to 4 weeks. So as part of that, we will create a set of release notes. For example, over here, we've got the March one. And within those release notes, we detail what new features have been included, as well as any sort of improvements as well. So it gives you the opportunity to keep up to date with those changes and make sure that any sort of new changes or features can be utilized within your software as well. In the main community page as well, so if I was to go into the all tags filter over here and select the update tag, it will show me all of the updates over the past sort of few years as well. Some of the other clients also discuss various different issues. So relating to some of the feedback or things, how things are done within CAS 360, even things relating to ASIC or, for example, the ABRS with the new director ID requirements. So feel free to register for the BGL community if you haven't already and get involved with those discussions as well. Any sort of feedback and discussions are more than welcome to occur in here. And the other last one as well is with the webinars as well. So webinars such as the one that we have today and other ones as well can be accessed through the BGL community so that you can keep up to date and watch previous ones that BGL has held. The next option that we have here is the feedback option. So this one here allows you to submit any feedback that you have in relation to CAS 360. So all of the feedback that does come through here is reviewed by a number of people at BGL, including our head of product, Warren. And what happens with all of that feedback is that it goes into what we call a wish list. So what that means, it's similar to like a Christmas wish list. The more clients that request the same feature, the more likely it is to be released within the software as it starts to jump up that list. So the more features that are requested, the more likely it will be available within the software. So definitely as you start to use the software, if you do have any feedback, definitely pop it into here. All feedback is reviewed. So please do pop it through here. A couple of the other options over here as well towards the right-hand side. The first one is the notification bell. So you'll start to see that this goes up a number of times and you'll see a number of notifications, for example, as well. We'll come back to the notification bell shortly, but that is one that allows you to receive notifications from ASIC, as well as any sort of digital signing or integration notifications, and any sort of lodgements that happen to ASIC as well. The next icon that we have here is the CAS 360 Knowledge Center or Help area. So within this option here, for example, if I was to click on the Australian Help, this will take us through the CAS 360 Knowledge Center. And within the CAS 360 Knowledge Center, I can search for various topics or things that I'm trying to do within the software itself. This is similar to the BGL Wiki for clients that have used the BGL CAS desktop product in the past. The Knowledge Center that we have here is the replacement basically for CAS 360 itself. So within here, if I was to type in how to appoint an officer, we can see that the article here goes through step by step within the software, how to appoint an officer. Okay, so the steps in help articles are very detailed without skipping any sort of steps in there so that you can do what you need to within the software. The next two options that we have here are the support options. So within your license, you will have this as well. So the first one is the live chat function. This allows you to connect with the BGL support team within about 45 seconds or less. So it's a very, very quick response time and allows you to ask those sort of quick questions. So rather than waiting for some help, if you just need to locate, how to do something within the software, feel free to get in touch with the BGL support team through the live chat option. And then you will receive a response very quickly. If you do prefer to receive a phone call, if you've got a more in-depth query, you can click on the support call function here, and the support team will get back to you as soon as possible. And that allows you to receive that phone support or email support for more in-depth queries as well. The next option that's here is the sign out button. So I'm not going to click on that one, but that's just obviously to log out of the software safely. And then a couple of final options here. So the first one is the app switcher, which is the 9 little squares from here. And this allows you to switch over to any other BGL products that you have access to, as well as my BGL, for example. So in this one, I've got access to Simple Fund 360 and Simple Invest. So it allows me to switch over to those products within the same login. And some other ones as well, such as the BGL Learning channel, which has a series of pre-recorded videos, and the Users Manager area, which allows you to manage users, invite new users, and even remove staff members that have maybe left the company as well. Perfect. Alrighty. So that's just a bit about the green bar and a bit about the navigation that we have here at the top and on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to go through a bit more about that notification bell that we looked at a couple of minutes ago. So within this notification bell, as I mentioned, so this will be notifications from ASIC. So for example, an annual review being received or company debts being updated. It might be from CAS 360 itself, for example, sending lodging a form to ASIC. If you do that, that notification, you'll be able to see the validation report from within the notification bell here. If you've got digital signing turned on as well. So CAS 360 supports digital signing with DocuSign, Adobe Sign, and ViewSign. So if you do have that turned on, you'll receive notifications whenever any of your clients have signed the documents. So any of sort of those notifications that come in and out of CAS 360 will come through to your notification bell. And this will appear for all users within the software as well. So we want to make sure that all users are receiving them, and that it's not being missed. So every user within your license will receive the same notifications. Now, within the settings option here on the right-hand side, there's an option here to receive an email from CAS 360. So it's an email reminder. So if I turn this on, this is a per user feature. So if you were to turn this on yourself, it won't affect any other staff members. It's a per user feature within that license, which allows you to receive an email from CAS 360 as frequently as you like, detailing what's been happening within the software. So you may not be logging into the software every day, maybe you log in once a week, but it's good to always, receive an email that details what's been happening within the software without having to physically log in. So this email will give a summary of what has happened within CAS 360. You can see on the screen some of the options that can be turned on and off as well. And down the bottom here, we can change the frequency as well. So if I want to receive this email every day, I can receive it Monday to Friday. Let's say, for example, I work Tuesday to Thursday. I can turn off Friday so that my inbox doesn't get flooded when I come back on a Monday morning. So we can pick what days we want to receive it, as well as the time. I can also receive it on a weekly basis, for example, on which day I want to receive it on, or even a fortnightly basis as well. So the option is there. And like I said, this is a per user feature. So we understand that each staff member works different hours and different days. So you do have that flexibility to be able to set the email and how frequently you want to receive that email. We're going to touch on the labels feature shortly as well. But within here as well, you can select which labels, which companies relating to the labels that you have selected come through as part of that email as well. So you might be working on companies for a particular partner. So you can pick those labels from here so that the notification or that email that gets sent to you is relevant to the ones that you work on and doesn't affect one of the other users in there as well. And once we've done that, we can click on the save settings from here, and then we'd receive that email, for example, every Monday. The labels feature as well. Now, to add a label to a company, we can easily do it from within the label column itself from here. So if I was to click on this and then type in, for example, Damien Test, I can attach that label to that company up the top. And when I go to the next company, I can select that existing one that I've previously created as well. Now, Doing this is great, but it is on a sort of individual basis. So if you want to do it more in a bulk format, you can go into the Manage Labels button here on the left-hand side. Select the label that you would like to attach to multiple companies, for example, or even remove as well. And then from here, we can just select the companies that we want to attach this label to. So it's a much quicker option than having to click into it from the column and then select the one as well. Now from here as well, if I want to edit the label itself, I can do that from this screen here. So this might be, for example, a partner that's left, or maybe you've taken over the companies from another previous staff member, those labels from here to a new name as well. So I'll just save this one for the moment. And then from here, we can see that the Damien test label has been attached to multiple companies. Now, a little bit more about how these labels work. These are fully customizable. So as I mentioned before, I just created that one as Damien test, but you can create any of the labels that you would like. So a few of the examples are here on the left-hand side. So some clients, if you've got multiple partners within your firm, you might choose to attach a label to as a partner name for that company. Multiple labels can also be attached to the companies. As you can see here, for example, we've got 4 labels attached to Alfa Romeo here. Some of the other ones as well, if you've got multiple offices across the country within the one license, you can attach a label for the office. And then, for example, maybe even just mailing things to the client as opposed to email, you've got that flexibility to be able to enter in and tag that from here. Now, also another option as well is if I want to filter the companies by a particular label, I can click on the Damien test label from here on the left-hand side, and that will just select the companies that have that label attached to it. So it makes it really easy for me to be able to work on a particular step. Another example as well also might be a group of companies. So you might have a family business or holding business that has 50 companies in there. So you might attach a label for those companies as well, which allows you to be able to filter and work on those companies at the same time as well. Now you'll notice this little star icon as well. So at the moment, I've got this label selected, which has those companies in here. But if I refresh the screen, it will go back to showing all of the companies that I've been working on. Now, if I was to click on this little star here, it will turn orange and it will have my label selected here. Now, what happens is CAS 360 will save that preference automatically. And what that means is if I was to now refresh CAS 360 again, it will show the companies again that are related to that label only. So it makes it really easy so that, if you do use the labels feature quite strongly, that you don't have to keep selecting it every single time as well. The other thing to also notice as well is with the notification bell itself, you'll notice that the companies that have that label attached will also appear as part of that filter here. So if I was to turn it off, I can see the companies that have relating to any of the labels, but otherwise the ones that are selected will appear by default in the notification bell. So it makes it really easy without having to click and filter various things. Now, a common question that we do also receive with the labels feature as well is whether we can run reports on those labels as well, and you definitely can. So if I was to navigate to the report screen here on the left-hand side, a common one, for example, is the company's listing report. So a partner may come to you and say, I want to see all of the companies that are attached to, that are my clients. So what you would do, and after having those companies in the software with the label attached, is to go into the company's listing from here. And then on the left-hand side, where the labels area is. So if I just deselect all the ones and then just select the Damien test one, we can see the 7 companies that have been attached to this one. And I can export that to a PDF in Excel and give that to the partner. So it makes it really easy to be able to run reports based on those labels as well. Perfect. So that's just a little bit about how the labels work. But as I mentioned, you can have multiple labels attached and they are fully customizable as well. So you can have whatever sort of details you do require attached to those ones as well. And there's no limit to how many labels are attached to the companies. Now, the other feature we wanted to look at as well is the columns. So similar to how we receive that email from CAS 360 as frequently as we like, we have this option here to filter the columns. So if you're currently logged into the software, you'll notice that I've got some different or additional columns compared to your one. Now, within the filter columns area here, you can pick and choose which columns you would like to see and which details on the main screen within CAS 360. So you can select up to 7 additional columns within here as well. And this is, again, a per user feature. So if I was to change some of the columns within my login from here, it will only change it for myself. So it's not going to affect some of the other users within the current license. So that gives you that flexibility that you might want to see particular information, for example, relating to an annual review, and one of your colleagues may not be working on annual review, so it's not relevant to them. So you can pick and choose which ones you would like to have turned on and off. And you can also move the columns around so that they appear in the order that you want them to be in. So once you have done that, and once we click on the save button, you'll see the information that relates to the ones that you have selected here. So that is, again, a per user feature. Now, with the prepare agent form area here, so this is where you'll be able to prepare some of the common forms more related to the registered agent side of things. So for example, taking on a new client and preparing a form 362 would be done through here. And the opposite, if a client was to move on to a new registered agent, the form 361 sits within this area here as well. A couple of the other ones that we see clients lodge quite frequently as well is, for example, the RA61 report. This allows you to see which companies are attached to your agent listing as well. So it gives you that ability to compare the data within CAS against ASIC and see which companies ASIC does have and maybe they don't have on their record as well. And then the common one that a lot of clients will also lodge is the RA71. So whether it be the data download itself, you can do from here to receive the current data from ASIC. If you need to reissue the annual review, possibly after deleting it by accident, that can also be done through here. And this one here is a little bit hidden as well. And sometimes clients, we get this question every now and then, is how do we receive a official ASIC statement on a particular company? Now, if you were to do this on the ASIC Connect website, there would normally be an additional charge to receive that, similar document to how an annual review looks with the ASIC watermark and that gray background. So from within here, you can request an official company statement. And what will happen is ASIC will send back the official company statement extract with the watermark and logo as well as part of that package. So this is available at no additional charge. So if it was to be done on the ASIC Connect website, there would usually be an additional charge, but within CAS 360 and this option here, it is free. Perfect, alrighty. So the next feature that we're going to look at is the alerts within CAS 360. Now the alerts are a big part. So I'm just going to refresh the screen now. All right, so we can see here we've got the 4 different options. So the first alert that we have here is the annual review alert. So if I wanted to filter the companies that do have the annual review alert turned on, what I would do is click on the annual review alert from here, and I'd be able to see which companies have that one turned on. Now, if the alert is not turned on, it will just appear in gray, for example, how we can see here at the moment. But if I was to click on it from here, I would be able to filter and see which companies have that one turned on. So within here as well, so the main colors to look out for are the ones in, so for example, with the annual review received. So if you have previously used our CAS desktop product, you might be quite familiar with logging in and doing what we call a blank lodgement to ASIC to receive those annual reviews. That would not be necessary in CAS 360, as CAS is automatically connecting to ASIC at least every 10 minutes. So when ASIC does send down the annual review for a company, it will be automatically received within the review screen, and it will show up in green from here, saying that the annual review has been received and is ready to be processed within the software. I don't have any at the moment, but any of the ones that do come up in the upcoming filter from here are the ones that have an annual review date within the next 7 days. Now, as I'm going through these colors as well, there's a lot of different colors and alerts. If you ever want to see what they mean, you can always click on the question mark from up here and see what those colors mean as well. So I'm going back to the one from here. So the upcoming one is any sort of companies that have an annual review date within the next 7 days or so, so that you can expect to receive those annual reviews and work out workflows as well. So you can see how busy is the next week or so going to be from here. Any companies that fall into the date past means that the annual review was expected to be received within CAS 360, but it wasn't received. Now, this could happen due to a number of different issues. For example, if ASIC are having a bit of issues with the servers, or if you're no longer the registered agent for the companies, they would fall into this particular filter from here. Now, again, as well, so if any of the companies fall into this one here, so CAS 360 will automatically lodge an RA71 to ASIC directly to reissue the annual review. This happens 3 days after the annual review date. And if that is successful, then the annual review will be ready to be processed. But if it is unsuccessful, CAS 360 will attempt to reissue or request the annual review from ASIC every 7 days until the 2 months when the annual review fee is due. So it gives you that option to be able to see those annual reviews that have not been received within the software, which makes it really easy to keep track of those ones from within here. Now, the next icon that we have here, the second one, is shared between the annual review process and also the document deadline alert as well. So the first one, so with the annual review process itself, so for those of you that are familiar with how an annual review works, so the only thing that ASIC receives is the payment. So they send down the annual company statement, but ASIC, so when the documents have been signed, they would normally be kept with the corporate register. So for example, the solvency resolution. But within CAS 360, we wanted to create a workflow where you can keep track of those annual reviews that have been sent out to be signed and make sure that you do follow up with clients on the signing part of it as well. So within the annual review process, which we won't be looking at today, but we will be within a couple of months as part of one of the upcoming webinar series with the annual review process, is that you can see which annual reviews have not been completed, but work on those and send those reminders out to those clients from here as well. Within here as well, there is a number of filters. You can see exactly which ones will be due within a couple of months' time so if they were just sent out in the current month, and then even drilling down to 30, 14, 7 days, even today, and ones that might be late as well to be returned to you. The second part of the alert is also the document deadline alert, so preparing ASIC forms. So from within here as well, we can see that the last reminder, for example, for the company, was sent on the 16th of August. So this little prompt here allows you to be able to see when the last reminder was sent, especially if you're looking at this once a week or every day, so that you're not spamming the client too much. If form's not due for a couple of weeks, you may not send a reminder to them every day unless you really want to get that form lodged. So you have the option here to be able to see when the last reminder was sent and then send a new reminder. So if I go into the send reminder option from here, we can see a number of different options available. So with the reminder set itself, I can send it via email to the client or even a text message as well. The text message one allows you to send text messages to the clients. It comes from a static phone number, so it doesn't change. I guess one of the common questions that we do receive, or a bit of feedback, is with the SMS side of things and clients receiving those, what's the most efficient way for clients to not see it as a spam or a sort of attack email message to them? And what it comes back to is the communication piece. So communicating with clients and making sure that they're aware that if a message comes from this particular phone number from CAS 360, for example, that it is coming from yourself as the registered agent. the text message option is a really good way to communicate with clients, especially when you've got a form that is due, for example, tomorrow, or a company debt that is due today. I think we all know that most of us would be quite responsive with responding to a text message or seeing a text message as opposed to an email. So the text message option there is a free feature within CAS 360 as well, being able to send a message out of the software or a reminder to the client. And the beauty of the feature as well is that clients can also respond to the text message as well. So they might choose to respond to you and say, yep, this is all paid. And that allows you to have that communication with them and see all of those text messages and history within CAS 360 as well. So if I was to go into the messages screen over here and go into SMS messages, I can see a full history with all of the text messages that have been sent out of CAS 360. And if I click on the speech bubble icon from here as well, I can see all of the text messages that have been sent. Okay, so we have that full history from within here to be able to see which messages have been sent to the clients and which ones have been replied from the client as well. If a client does reply to the text message, it will definitely come into that notification bell as well. So you will be able to see that a text message has been received back in the software as well, similar to, for example, the one that we have here on the screen as well. So it makes it really easy. You don't have to go into the SMS messages screen every time to go and see those ones. Perfect. So a couple of other things also to look out for with sending out reminders. Now, this license does have DocuSign turned on as one of our digital signing partners. So documents have been previously sent out with DocuSign turned on. Now, if I was to click on the toggle for any of these from here, we can send out this document as a reminder. So we've previously sent this form out to the client, but they haven't signed off on the documents yet. So I'm selecting this one to be sent as a reminder. When digital signing is turned on, we'll be able to see the status from within here. So we can see that in the past, these emails have been sent to those recipients that need to sign off on the documents, but they haven't been signed off yet. Okay, so if I was to maybe try and locate, this company here. So we can see within this example that the emails been previously sent out. The documents have been signed by Rocco in this example. So we can see that the completed status is here, but they haven't been signed by Joan or Francis, which is why they've still got that blue and sent message appearing here. So what that means is we still need the documents to be signed by Francis and Joan, but when I click on, so when we send this reminder out of CAS 360 to the client, the reminders will only go to Francis and Joan. They won't be sent to Rocco because he's already signed the documents. He doesn't need that reminder to be sent to him. So those notifications and the beauty of the integration with our digital signing providers is that we receive those notifications when each of the recipients have signed the documents. Once all of the recipients have signed the documents, they will come back into the software automatically as well. So from within here, I can send that out to the clients, so Francis and Joan, and send that email reminder to them from within here that says we previously sent these documents out and that they need to be signed from here. And we can click on the send button, which will send that reminder to those clients. And then again, from within here, from the alert itself, we can see that this is now updated to the last reminder sent was on the 20th of April, so being today. So if I was to look at this tomorrow, I'd know not to send another reminder to the client, especially if the due date wasn't for another few days or a couple of weeks, for example. Just a little bit about how the document deadline alert works there with the annual review one as well. Now, the next one that we look at is the company debt alert. Now, the company debts are automatically updated every day, automatically with CAS 360. So CAS 360 will lodge what we call an RA67 to ASIC, and ASIC will send back the companies with all of the debts for the ones that where a company still has one with ASIC directly. So that process happens normally in the morning, somewhere between 9 a.m. and before midday, usually, depending on ASIC servers as well. And those updates will come through and the alerts will be updated within CAS 360 from here. Now, just by looking at the $ over here, and if I was to filter into some of them a little bit more from within here, We can see if the company has an account credit, so maybe they've overpaid the fees to ASIC, possibly accidentally or intentionally. If they wanted to, pay the annual review fee in advance for a few years, they may have got an account credit. So you'll be able to see those details from within here. So with the future debt as well, so just reiterating that one again. So the future debt is for companies that have a debt due within 30 to 60 days. So for example, if I had a company's annual review that was received today, the payment would be due on the 20th of June approximately. So that company's debt would appear within the future debt. It's not due straight away. We've still got a bit of time before that one does need to be paid by the client. So I'm just going to go through the last bit again. Do apologize for that. So with the outstanding debt, just back over here again. So the outstanding debt is for companies that have a debt due somewhere between 0 and 30 days. Okay, so it might be due today, for example. It might be due within the next couple of weeks. So ASIC does send us sort of limited information about exactly when it's due, but within CAS 360, there is algorithms in place to work out exactly when those debts are due, and they will appear within the alert itself as well from here. If a company has not yet paid its debts to ASIC, for example, the annual review fee, it is then considered, for example, a late debt. If it's not paid within the 2 months, they will fall into the late debt from over here. So it's really important that as a registered agent that you keep on top of this, especially if your clients expect that you provide them with those reminders to avoid those hefty late fees, that you use these filters from here and send out those reminders to the clients from here. So with the alert itself from here as well, so a few features to look at. There's a lot of details that are visible on the screen, and every part of it I'd like to say is quite important as well. So any sort of ASIC invoices that they send down electronically. So in the past, ASIC has sent them via the post, for example, but they're now sent via electronically. So for example, received in CAS 360. And from within here, we can access them and view those invoices from here. There's a few other details as well. So ASIC will indicate exactly what the amount owing to ASIC is as well. So they'll say that amount from here. CAS 360 will show when the annual review due date was as well. So it'll say, for example, the 22nd of August. So 2 months after the annual review date, for example, the 22nd of June. It will show when the last debt was updated, so the date of that as well. So again, I'm in a demo environment, which is why mine is showing 2018 at the moment. But if you're in your license, it will probably show today's date, the 20th of April on your debt. And it will also show the date and the time, that it was last updated. So you'll be able to see from here, especially if you're logging in at 9 a.m. in the morning, whether the debt has been updated from the previous day or not. You'll be able to see that from here. So looking at that data and making sure that it was updated recently is quite important, especially as the due date of any fees are upcoming, because the client may pay it closer to the due date. So if it was due today, the client may have paid it yesterday, but if the debt alert hasn't been updated just yet, you might be sending an unnecessary reminder to the client. So just making sure that we wait for the debts to be updated is important. But if you do want to get a quicker sort of response from ASIC and see whether the debt is still outstanding on their records, you can click on the refresh balance from within here as well. And that sends through an individual company request for this particular company to see if there is still a debt on ASIC's end for that company. Similar to the document deadline reminder, we've got the last reminder sent. So for example, this one will show when the last reminder was sent out to the client. So again, if it was sent yesterday and the debt's not due for a couple of weeks, just consider whether you're going to send another reminder the next day. Obviously, if it was due today, then you might send it twice, but you've got that option to be able to see when the last reminder was sent to the client. Now, from within here as well, we've got the option to be able to pay the ASIC fee on Australia Post. So if I was to click on this button from here, if paying the annual review fee is something that your firm does on behalf of the client and then you get reimbursed at a later date, you can definitely do that from within here. Okay, so you can pay those fees for the companies directly to ASIC from here, which saves you a lot of time and also entering in, for example, the BPay details incorrectly. If you're doing it, for example, through internet banking as well. So doing it through CAS 360 and having this shortcut allows you to be able to pay those details, pay those company fees on behalf of the clients with Australia Post directly from here. Now, if I was to click on the send reminder as well from here, and if I was to then select this one to send a reminder to the client to pay the company debts, the template I have within here. So if I just go back for one moment. Yep. So within my email template, I've got here as well, this pay now button. So this email, for example, would be sent to the client directly. The pay now button is similar to what we saw with the Australia Post option. So the client will have the option to be able to pay the debts on the Australia Post website directly as well. So it makes it really easy to be able to, for the client to pay it as well without, again, having to go into the internet banking and potentially typing in the BPay details incorrectly. They would be able to say, pay it with Australia Post the same way that you would using that link that we saw before over here as well. Now, with the company debts as well, you can run a report on those as well. So if I was to go into the report screen here on the left-hand side, and then click on the company debt listing report from here, I would be able to generate a report, particularly again, based on labels. If you wanted to do it based on a particular partner, you can run this report, which will show all of the companies that have a debt in there as well. So it makes it really easy to be able to see which ones have a late debt, and then have that in a report format as well. Now, the last alert that we have here is what we call the director ID alert. So with the new director ID requirements, so we're getting closer and closer to that due date in November for all directors having a director ID. Within CAS 360, we've got the workflow to be able to send out emails to clients indicating what the requirements are and how to register or apply for a director ID. So within this example, so I'm just going to locate one of the companies. Yeah, so for this particular company we've got here, we can see that the company has 2 directors, but the director IDs have not been recorded within the software. So what I can do is go into the director IDs from here. And this screen will appear, which will show all of the directors, of that particular company, and gives me the option to be able to send out an email to those directors. Now, a couple of things to note before I do send out this email. So from here, we can see which other companies the individual is a director of, and this is based on a contact level. Okay, so if you do have duplicate contacts because there's issues with the details not matching across all the companies, they will appear. So these ones here will appear based on the contact and the companies that they're attached to. So this one here is an example. The individual is attached to 2 other companies. But we can see that director ID has already been provided from here. And we can see the other companies as well and other directors of that company. We can also see whether the director ID has been recorded or not, and when the last email was sent to them as well. A couple of other things as well, we can see when the due date is for the director ID to be applied for as well. So for example, with new directors at the moment, they do need to have a director ID before they become a director now as well. So you'll be able to see those due dates and that information, and those colors change as part of the alerts. So if I was to click on the send now from here, this email here will go through and indicate to the client what the director ID requirements are. So if this isn't something that you have done yet or looked at, it's important to look at it, especially with that due date later in the year, in November, but also earlier due dates as well, in making sure that your clients have registered and applied for a director ID. So it is obviously a new requirement. Some of your clients will have questions about this as well. So just be mindful of how many emails you do send out. Because there will be probably a few clients that will respond and have questions about the process, or some may even ask you to walk them through that process as well. So all of these links are embedded within here. And one other thing to note as well is that with those relationships that we looked at before, CAS 360 will automatically pick up which companies they are part of. So the more or sort of less duplicate contacts that you have, is the cleaner the database, the better this will be. Because what that will mean is that only one email will be sent to that client, and it will list out all of the companies that they are part of, that they're a director of. So even if there is an individual that is a director in 50 companies, even though this email is being sent out at a company level, they're not going to receive 50 emails. They'll receive one email with those 50 companies listed as part of this email from within here. Couple of other things as well. So it just goes through how to register and get a director ID. And then once they have received the director ID, the client, we've got in the template here to notify yourself as a registered agent of that director ID. And that can then be input directly into CAS 360 as well. So within the alert itself, within this option here, I can add the director ID into this screen from here. And if I want to send, so I've sent out the requirements in the past to the client and we want to send a reminder to them. From here, we can click on the send reminder option, which gives a similar email to what we looked at before, but it basically just says that we've previously sent out information about the director ID requirement and how that does need to be applied for and returned to you for your records as the registered agent. So currently, and today, this is not something that ASIC does have recorded on their forms or anything like that. So this isn't something that ASIC records just yet. It's something that's more related to the new ABRS government department. But we do have that functionality to be able to record the director IDs in CAS 360. With the recording of the director IDs as well, so you don't have to locate one of the companies within here. Within the contact screen itself, if I was to search for an individual, so in this example, what I can do is go into the information area and then go into the identification, for example, and then type in, for example, the Australian Director ID and attach this here. So once we attach the Director ID, there is a validation as well. So it does say there needs to be a valid Director ID, which is normally 15 digits. And once that is saved against that contact, it will attach it to all of the companies that it is part of. So in this example, for myself, I'm a director in multiple companies that we can see here. So what happens is by me entering in that director ID to the contact directly, it would then flow through to the director ID alert for all of these companies listed as well. Now, within those director IDs as well, so the alerts that are here, so what you're going to want to see is sort of 0 within the overdue ones. You want to make sure that you're keeping on top of these requirements. And even the ones with the required within 28 days, keeping on top of them and making sure that clients have responded and provided or registered for and applied for a director ID within those timeframes. And then what we want to see, what you want to see, sorry, is the number within the November 22, which is for example, pre-existing directors. You want to gradually see this number decrease and the number of completed ones increase as well. Okay, so especially over the next few months, you want to make sure that all of your clients and companies and directors have applied for and received their director ID and record that within the software. Again, it's not going to be on the ASIC forms, but having them saved within the software means that you've got that database up to date, so that when and if there is any sort of changes to the process in the future, you've already got those details within here and you don't have to enter in additional information. And even entering it in allows you to be able to see these filters and make sure that they're up to date in making sure that those clients have advised you of those. If you want to run a report on the director IDs as well, that can also be done from the report screen. There is a director report feature here, which generates in Excel and will list out all of the director IDs and the directors that may not have a director ID recorded within CAS 360 yet. Just got a question here about the due dates for the director IDs. So the process is in 3 different stages. So the due date there does look at the relationships for the companies as well. So it's been a process that has been rolled out in 3 different stages, as I mentioned. So depending on when the director was appointed to the company, what date they were appointed, and if they've been a previous or a current director of another company, that is how the due date is calculated there. So if there is an issue, we can look into it. There is a lot of algorithms, and we've tried to make sure that it is correct. But definitely get in touch with the support team, and we can look at that if there is still an incorrect one that is mentioned. But it is a 3-step process that is there. Now, something else that I just want to touch on and finish off the session with, I know that we're reaching our 1 hour mark at the moment almost, and it is with the company registration side. So I'm just going to jump into a different environment, and I will share, go through the company registration process. So from within the company selection screen itself, okay, so this one's a little bit more of a smaller sort of database. Within here, if I go into the company registrations area, this is where we can do a form 201 within CAS 360 directly. Okay. Now, company registrations within CAS 360 is free. There's no additional charge to process a form 201 within the software. Okay, so no additional charge. The only thing is that once the company has been registered with ASIC, once you lodge it through CAS 360, the company will take up a spot within your license, which allows you then to prepare that form 362 and appoint yourself as the agent for the company within CAS 360. Now, the only prerequisite that needs to happen before you can do your first company registration is to make sure that you have a direct debit request set up with ASIC. So to do that, it's within the prepare agent form here that we can do it within CAS 360. And the option here is the RA04 direct debit request. And so this is for yourself as a registered agent. The registration fee that ASIC takes for the company being formed does come out from yourself as a registered agent. So when I click on the RA04 from here, we've got the option to be able to set the limit. Okay, so the daily limit that the direct debit will, so for any sort of lodgements that happen. Now, be mindful and conscious of the limit that you do set. So for example, the registration fee is just over $500 at the moment. So in this example, if I was to put $1,000 in this direct debit request, and once I do lodge this one with ASIC, which we'll go through shortly and explain how that process works, even though we've got that limit of 1,000 here, it really only allows for one company to be registered today, or once that form has been accepted by ASIC. So if you're trying to do 2 registrations within a day, but you have your limit set at 1,000, and that's not sufficient enough for both companies, the second one will not be accepted by ASIC. So just be really conscious of what your limit is. Obviously, don't set it to too high, but you want to make sure that this limit is a consciously selected amount, which is catered to the number of registrations that you would process for your clients. So within here, we can select, for example, that we want the company registrations to be included. Other forms that also have fees involved as well can be selected if you want to include those. And then from within here, you'd have the option to pop in the bank details for your firm. Okay, so just an example, I'm just going to pop in test here. So you pop in obviously your correct bank details. And the account holder. So if I just pop in myself, CAS 360 will automatically prepare the RA04 form for you and pre-fill it, such as the one displayed on the screen at the moment. And this would then be lodged to ASIC manually by paper. Unfortunately, ASIC doesn't support electronic lodgement of the RA04, so it does need to be sent to them by mail to the address that is listed at the bottom of the RA04 form from here. Now, once ASIC has accepted the RA04 form on their end and processed it on their end, you would then be able to process and complete those company registrations through CAS 360. So if I go into company registrations from here, So I've got a couple examples here. If I wanted to do a new company registration, I would click into the company registration from here. And then I'll enter in these details and go through this workflow to create and register a new company with ASIC. So if I just open up maybe one of my other ones, so I can see this is the example to Damien Original Proprietary Limited. And you have the full workflow of being able to select the company addresses, officers, and shareholders as well. And if you want the form to be manually reviewed by someone at ASIC, so you can pop that in and then the reasons why it should be manually reviewed. So for example, the name being identical almost or something like that. You've got that full workflow. Even if you do have a name reservation, you can also pop in here, for example, the reservation number. So the full workflow is available here for those companies as well. So once the details have been entered in from within here, if I click on the save and prepare option over here, it will prepare and create what we call the Preinquire Pack. So it will have the form 201 in here with all of the details populated based on the ones that have been entered into CAS 360 in the screen before. The consent to act as well, the director ID requirements as well. So if the director is a new director and needs to apply for a director ID, that would appear as part of that letter pack. And then the application for shares as well. So these are the documents that would appear as part of the Preinquire Pack as well. Digital signing is also enabled, and the form 201 can be digitally signed. So that will appear in here if you do have digital signing turned on as well. Once that occurs, you would then be able to click on the lodge button and lodge that form 201 with ASIC to incorporate that company. Okay, so like I said before, at that point, what happens is ASIC will take out the registration fee, so approximately about $500 or so. That will take that out of the direct debit that has been previously set up. And beyond that, you've got the option then to be able to prepare what we call the post-incorp documents. Now, if I just preview this, it will have, for example, the form 362 in here. It will have the certificate of registration, so the registration certificate after the company has been incorporated, and some of the other supporting documents as well. Now, with the company constitution, we do have a blank template that you can customize within CAS 360. But recently, in the last sort of month or two, we've also added the option to be able to purchase company constitutions with some of our document providers. So if I was to click on the Buy Constitution button from here, we can see that I can purchase a company constitution from Entity Makers, Lightyear Docs, and Smarter SMSF. So we are looking to increase the number of document providers within this option as well, but you've got the ability to purchase those company constitutions for companies at a relatively low price as well. So before you can do this, you do need to have a direct debit set up through My BGL. So if your CAS 360 license is already set up with monthly billing, you won't need to complete this step. If you are on annual billing though, you would need to make sure that your billing details have been updated within My BGL, your My BGL Administration Center, before you can purchase a company constitution directly with one of our third-party providers here. Being able to do this from here allows you to populate that information from the company directly, so it saves you having to re-enter it in on the document provider's website. And the fees for the company constitution will be taken at the beginning of the following month as well. So that's why that direct debit is important to be set up first. So even if you are doing a few companies, the fees will be taken out at the start of the following month as well. So you can complete as many as you like. And this is really targeted for ones where you may be doing a company incorporation for a company, but it may not be too frequent. So if it maybe happens maybe once a month or something like that, doing it through CAS 360 is a really good sort of option to save those sort of other fees. So the only fees that would be incurred, for example, would be the registration fee from ASIC, and then the constitution fee if you were to purchase one from one of the document providers through CAS 360 as well. So it might be working out to be maybe just under $650, for example, which might be quite cheaper quite cheap compared to some of the other providers or how your current process is. So definitely doing them through CAS 360 is a really good sort of option to save those fees because the whole workflow is also supported as part of that process here as well. Perfect. So that does bring us to the end of the webinar. So I'm just going to wrap up with a couple of other points as well. So a couple of other resources as well that we do have. So as I mentioned before, you do have the live chat function within CAS 360 to be able to communicate with the support team. The learning channel that we also looked at with the app switcher to see some of the recorded videos as well. The YouTube channel, has all of our past recorded webinars. So including the one today, they will be uploaded to YouTube. You will receive an email with a copy of the recording as well. And the BGL community that we looked at before. So what's next? So in the next webinar that we have in a couple of weeks' time, on the 4th of May, we'll be looking at the trust module. So the trust module is one, if it's not something that you're already using, definitely do register and attend the webinar, or even if you can't attend it, register so you can receive a copy of the recording. Just very quickly, the trust module within CAS 360 is free. You don't pay any additional fees to access it. So if you're not currently managing your trusts within CAS 360, definitely do come to the webinar or view the recording so that you can see the full features of the trust module. And then in June, we will be looking at the annual reviews process as well and how you can maximize and the efficiencies behind that. So as I mentioned at the start of the webinar, the series this year will be a little bit different from how we've run it in last year, where each month we will have a different topic and focus on that one more in depth, catering to a number of clients and what are the options behind that in maybe changing your workflows and processes within the firm as well. So I just wanted to say a very big thank you for your time and for attending today's webinar. Again, I do apologize for the technical issues that we did have during the session. Hopefully next time we'll get them sorted out and won't have those again. But you will, like I said, we will definitely have the recording as well sent out to you within the next few days. But on behalf of BGL, I just wanted to say a very big thank you for attending and thank you for your support.